This week on General Hospital, Port Charles is literally going up in flames. A massive, high-speed car crash leaves Curtis and Jordan trapped in a burning wreck, but was this a tragic accident, or a cold-blooded assassination attempt by Jenz Sidwell? Hello everyone and welcome. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please support me and give this video a thumbs up. General Hospital GH teasers for the week of April 6th to 10th indicate that a big car crash will occur when Curtis Ashford Donnell Turner and Jordan Ashford Tanisha Harper are driving. However, is this due to automobile tampering? And are they the intended targets? Let's talk about it. The General Hospital preview for this week has just been revealed. Among the numerous dramas scheduled over the next 5 days, it features Curtis and Jordan in a huge automobile crash with Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, and Valentine Cassadine, James Patrick Stewart on the scene. A video shows Carly and Valentine traveling at night, seeming serious, while Curtis and Jordan are laughing hysterically in their vehicle. The final clip shows a vehicle that has crashed with its engine engulfed in flames, implying that 2, if not all 4, passengers would be in a bad predicament by the end. It does not appear to be a storm. Neither party would be foolish enough to drive while intoxicated. Thus, it is difficult not to suspect foul play. Prior to this incident in the General Hospital teaser for the week of April 6th, Jenz Sidwell Carlo says get rid of her permanently. Having stated that, who is he talking about? Some fans may suspect he is talking to Britt West, Kelly Thibaud, as he stated last week that he believes she is more trouble than she's worth. Could Sidwell be referring to Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ali? Willow Kane, Caitlin McMullen overheard Trina and Kai Taylor Yimps Austin Astrop discussing how they knew she shot Drew Kane Cameron Matt during the week of March 30th to April 3rd. Willow became suspicious when she noticed Trina knew her ringtone for WY Corinthos Byron Weaver. Willow approached Sidwell with her minor problem. If Kai and Trina decide to spill the beans, her tenure as a representative could be jeopardized, which would have a significant impact on Sidwell. When it comes to automotive tampering, GH liked doing the old switcheroo. So, it's not a stretch to believe that Sidwell arranges for broken brakes on Trina's car only for the young woman to pass it back to her father. Sidwell and Willow may believe that getting rid of Trina is the best method to keep Kai silent about the shooter's secret. Willow may have troubles if Kai isn't available to organize her legislative office. However, Sidwell does not appear to be the type of guy who makes beginner mistakes. Jordan has been talking a lot about her job with Sidwell and how it's all part of a plan to catch the terrorist. Jordan first started working for Sidwell to become a mole and acquire information to put the man in jail. She hasn't found anything substantial yet, but she believes she will soon. Jordan has brought this up in public several times. Will she do so again this week, only for Sidwell or someone close to Sidwell to overhear? Sidwell will be furious when he discovers the betrayal. Therefore, Jordan may be the original target after all. General Hospital spoilers indicate that the following 5 days will be filled with drama. So, it will be interesting to watch how this car catastrophe occurs. In the gloomy underbelly of Port Charles, where alliances moved like sand, and old grudges refused to die, Jenz Sidwell stood alone in the dimly illuminated chapel following his son Marco's funeral. The aroma of incense and wilting flowers remained heavily in the air, serving as a sharp reminder of the life he had lost. Marco Rios, the young man Sidwell had only lately come to know as his own flesh and blood, was gone, brutally murdered in what Sidwell suspected was a premeditated hit ordered by Sonny Corinthos. The anguish twisted inside him like a dagger, igniting a hatred that grew more intense with each passing hour. "How can you be so naive?" he asked earlier that day, staring at the altar, where prayers for the dead reverberated hollowly. Sonny's denials meant nothing. In Sidwell's world, vengeance was not an option. It was the only way ahead. Sidwell walked over the stone floor, his shined shoes tapping forcefully against the chilly surface. He had established an empire on calculated risks and merciless efficiency, plucking strings from the shadows of international operations that were inextricably linked to Port Charles's illicit undercurrent. His collaboration with Ross Cullum had previously proven profitable, allowing them to manage events from behind the scenes. But after Marco died, everything changed. Sidwell's imagination raced through the suspects, eventually settling on Sonny, the crime kingpin with seemingly limitless power. What Sonny didn't realize was that Sidwell's connections extended far beyond the small town's ports. As the funeral attendants withdrew, Sidwell issued a low summon from the back pew. His voice was low, controlled, and tinged with ice. On the other end was Cassius Faison, whom everyone in Port Charles mistook for Nathan West, Maxie Jones' presumed dead brother. Cassius had done his part admirably, infiltrating the neighborhood with Sidwell's careful orchestration. He deceived friends, relatives, and even those closest to the truth. Sidwell had commended him for it just days before, saying, "You've done it brilliantly, and you have everyone fooled." But praise comes with expectations, and tonight those expectations proved lethal. "Get rid of her permanently," Sidwell said over the phone, his tone leaving no room for interpretation. The words lingered in the air like a death sentence. Cassius halted on the line, the weight of the order settling in. He knew exactly who Sidwell was referring to. Britt Westbourne. The doctor had become a thorn in their side, interfering with their operations through a succession of bad partnerships and betrayals. Britt had already interacted with Sidwell's group in ways that made her dangerous. She knew too much, had seen too much, and her developing proximity to certain personalities in town, including rumors of a relationship with Jason Morgan, made her a liability. Sidwell had previously warned cases that if Britt betrayed their delicate equilibrium, she would pay. Now, with grief clouding his judgment, Sidwell saw no other option. Britt had to be eliminated quietly and without leaving a trace in order for him to carry out his broader revenge on Sonny. Cassius squirmed uncomfortably in his covert vantage point, overlooking the harbor. Posing as Nathan provided him with access to Port Charles's inner circles, but it also led him into unexpected moral quandaries. Britt was more than just a mark. She was sharp, resilient, and had a track record of overcoming the impossible. Rumors circulated that she had previously risen from the dead, with her death on the dock being a masterfully prepared escape that fooled even the most alert observers. Sidwell saw her as more trouble than she was worth, especially following recent occurrences in which she questioned their objectives and pushed the boundaries of their plans. Cassius considered his alternatives. Carrying out the instruction put him at risk of exposure, but disobeying Sidwell may lead to his death. "Understood," he finally said, although doubt noted at him. Meanwhile, across town, Britt Westbourne walked through General Hospital with her customary speed. The white coat draped on her body like armor, concealing the turmoil beneath. She had returned to Port Charles with her own secrets, dragged into a web of Sidwell's operations by old connections and a desire to safeguard those she cared about. Her dealings with Lucas Jones had been more problematic recently, particularly as doubts concerning Marco's death arose. Lucas, still grieving in his own way and torn between family loyalty, had sought her away several times, asking if Marco's murder had been for nothing. Britt deflected, but the guilt remained. She understood some of the truth. Cullum's complicity, Sidwell's uncontrolled rage, but exposing too much may jeopardize everyone's safety. Britt's thoughts turned to Jason Morgan as she read patient charts. Their developing relationship had previously hit stumbling blocks, exacerbated by threats that appeared to stalk her like shadows. A recent snowstorm had pulled them together, thawing some of the ice between them, but Britt pushed him away several times, worried that her connections to Sidwell's world would drag him down. Jason, ever the guardian, realized something was wrong. He had his own reservations about the new Nathan in town and the weird undercurrent surrounding Sidwell. Britt had no idea her name had just been used as part of a death sentence. The week passed with tension crackling in every part of Port Charles. Christina Corinthos Davis prepared for Charlie's Pub's grand reopening. The fire that had destroyed the establishment months earlier, widely assumed to be related to Sidwell and Marco's previous schemes, had left scars. But Christina poured her energies into reconstructing it with a new jazz flavor. The celebration was intended to be a light of optimism, bringing together friends and family to toast new beginnings. Sonny went, breaking away from his typically guarded existence to support his daughter. Even as laughter and music filled the air, an uneasy feeling persisted. Sidwell's anguish had raised the stakes for everyone in town, and no one felt genuinely safe. Curtis Ashford and Jordan Ashford drove along the twisting roads on the outskirts of Port Charles, quietly discussing the newest developments. Curtis, with his strong instincts developed by years of security and personal challenges, saw danger approaching. Jordan, the previous police commissioner, expressed his alarm about Sidwell's escalating vendetta. Their topic shifted to probable car tampering with hints of sabotage aimed at anyone close to Sonny. As they navigated a tight curve, headlights emerged in the distance, driving too quickly and unpredictably. The advertising clips hinted at a major accident, leaving viewers wondering if Curtis and Jordan were the intended victims, or if the tragedy was collateral damage in Sidwell's larger conflict. Valentine Cassadine and Carly Spencer found themselves on a similar collision course, both physically and metaphorically. Their tangled history often pitted them against one another, but recent circumstances forced them to form uneasy alliances. As they drove separately to meetings that could derail Sidwell's plans, the highways converged in a state of complete anarchy. Tires shrieked, metal crumpled, and the darkness erupted with the sound of shattered glass. Was this Sidwell's doing, a preemptive strike to tie up loose ends? Or had his directives to cases resulted to unexpected consequences? Sidwell returned to the cathedral and received reports from his network. He refused to accept any narrative that exonerated Sonny. Even as evidence arose indicating Cullum or other actors may have played a role in Marco's death. "My son's murder will not go unpunished," he declared aloud, clenching his fist. His Bond villain energy emanated through every interaction, making him both seductive and lethal. He had previously orchestrated events such as detaining hostages and planting bodies in trunks in order to consolidate authority. With Willow Tate Kane engaged in his legislative plans and Drew Kane sidelined, Sidwell's power has grown in both politics and business. Cases split between devotion and survival followed Britt's movements. He set up a quiet meeting under the idea of a casual acquaintance to probe for flaws. Britt, sensing a shift, addressed him with her usual wit and attitude. "Whatever game you're playing, Nathan, or whoever you really are, I'm not part of it anymore," she said. But Cases understood the instruction couldn't be taken lightly. He reported back to Sidwell, gaining time as he planned his next move. Perhaps he could deflect the strike or warn Britt softly without blowing his cover. The stakes were suddenly personal. His sister Maxie and the life he'd constructed as Nathan were on the line. Port Charles became a hub of speculation as the days passed. Laura Collins, the mayor and guardian, got warnings from Ezra about how Marco's death had altered everything. She fought hard to keep her family, including Kevin and young Ace, safe from Sidwell's grasp. Meanwhile, Sonny maneuvered his own defenses, probing Sidwell's weaknesses with individuals such as Lucy Coe and Ava Jerome. Ava's growing closeness to Sidwell raised questions, and her warnings about meddlers on Spoon Island added to the intrigue. Britt found herself in a tense standoff at the hospital where Lucas pressed her more on the wider issue. "Was Marco's death for nothing?" he said, his voice full with anguish. Britt hesitated, her mind returning to Sidwell's cold instruction, which she had not yet realized had been issued. She sought refuge in quiet moments, possibly reaching out to Jason under cover of darkness. But danger drew closer with each stride. The car accident occurred in a dramatic manner, leaving Curtis and Jordan startled but alive. Their vehicle smashed on the wayside. Emergency personnel rushed in as Jordan gripped her side and Curtis dialed for assistance with bloodied hands. Whisper spread that the meddling pointed back to Sidwell's network, sending a message to anyone who supported Sonny. Valentine and Carly's near miss exacerbated the situation by pushing them into a single hospital room where old tensions resurfaced amid the anxiety. Sidwell displayed no remorse as he monitored from his protected spot. Permanently meant just that, no loose ends, no second chances, but fissures developed in his armor. Anonymous tips and encounters raised questions about Marco's genuine killer. Lucas contemplated disclosing what he knew. Torn between justice and protecting the innocent, Casa struggled with his conscience, wondering if sparing Britt would buy him forgiveness or cement his fate. In the midst of it all, relationships were tested and repaired. Christina's reopening party became sad as news of the tragedy spread, with attendees whispering about the curse that appeared to haunt Charlie's Sonny drew Christina aside, offering her safety even as his own world threatened to disintegrate. Britt, recovering from a close call in which Cassius paused at the last second, grasped the gravity of the situation. She shared shards with trusted associates, triggering a chain reaction that might reveal Sidwell's entire plan. The sadness of Sidwell's order spread, hurting people in unforeseen ways. Families met in waiting rooms to share their experiences of survival and grief. Jordan thought on her relationship with Curtis, which was tested but not damaged by the crash. Carly and Valentine handled the aftermath of their crash with sarcasm and grudging respect, implying deeper relationships. Sidwell's intense and uncompromising sadness drove him even more into isolation. He went to Marco's grave in the moonlight, whispering pledges of vengeance. "They took you from me, and now I'll take everything from them." But in his solitude, a glint of humanity appeared. Regret for the collateral damage. Innocence like Britt caught in the crossfire. Nonetheless, the villain in him won, delivering additional directives to tighten the noose around Sonny. As the week came to an end, poor Charles braced for more turmoil. Cassius postponed the inevitable, possibly devising a ruse to appease Sidwell while secretly assisting Britt's escape or defense. Jason used his contacts to piece together the puzzle of the phony Nathan and Sidwell's vendetta. The vehicle crash investigation pointed fingers in several places, with police and private investigators both closing in. Britt faced her worries full-on and refused to hide. During a heated debate with cases, revelations regarding identities and betrayals emerged. "If you're here to end me, do it. But know that it won't stop Sidwell's fall." Cassius, touched by her bravery, took a decision that may change everything, warning her instead, buying valuable time. The get rid of her permanently catastrophe was a watershed moment, demonstrating the vulnerability of power in Port Charles. Sidwell's fury, fueled by terrible loss, threatened to engulf not only his adversaries, but also his soul. Allies became apprehensive, foes discovered common ground, and the community waited for the next explosion. In the days that followed, healing mingled with determination. Curtis and Jordan emerged stronger, their shared ordeal rekindling old flames. Christina's pub became a gathering spot for strategy discussions disguised as celebrations. Sonny confronted Sidwell in a tense standoff. Words as cutting as knives, each accusing the other, while the true culprit, perhaps Cullum's hidden hand, remained unanswered. Britt withstood the immediate threat, her strength shining through. She and Jason had a quiet moment, walls falling as danger created new intimacy. Sidwell continued to scheme, his shadow kingdom expanding even as fissures appeared in its base. Port Charles had seen many villains come and go. But Sidwell's unique brand of calculated anger made an indelible impression. The tragedy of his order was more than simply one life in danger. It was the exposure of well-hidden secrets, the clash of past and present, and the human cost of unbridled vengeance. As sirens wailed in the distance and alliances mended, one thing was certain. In this town, no command for permanency went uncontested, and every tragedy contained the seeds of unexpected salvation. The plot of Sidwell's vendetta continued to emerge, snaking through hospital hallways, hidden lanes, and opulent estates. Each character negotiated their own piece of the puzzle. Some seeking truth, some surviving, all linked by the strands of loyalty, love, and loss. Britt's narrow escape became legendary in whispered talks, demonstrating the razor-thin border between life and the permanent end Sidwell sought. Finally, the week of commotion served as a reminder to everyone that tragedies like this one do not always end well at General Hospital. They evolved, drawing more lives into the vortex until justice, however imperfect, clawed its way to the top. Sidwell's remarks reverberated long after they were said. A grim warning that Port Charles would never be the same. What they didn't realize was that she still lived for now. She awoke slowly, her head pounding and her vision clouded. She initially noticed the darkness. The second was the cold. Her wrists were shackled, her body weak, but her intellect was keen enough to comprehend the situation. She'd been stolen, and whomever did it didn't intend to let her go. Footsteps reverberated nearby. Slowly and deliberately. She forced herself to stay still and listen. You should have walked away, a voice whispered almost regretfully. Her pulse raced as she realized the implication of those words. This didn't have to happen, she swallowed hard, gathering all her strength. Sidwell, she muttered. He sent you. There's a pause then. You're smarter than most. That wasn't comforting. Back in the city, the search intensified. Leads were pursued, calls were made, and alliances were formed out of desperation. But each passing minute drew them closer to the dreadful reality. It wasn't simply about silencing her. This was about transmitting a message. Sidwell wasn't simply tidying up a loose end. He was making certain that no one else would attempt to follow in her footsteps. Even he couldn't foretell what would happen next. Something strange was going on in the darkness where she was being confined. She was not giving up. Despite the dread and suffering, she was thinking, planning, waiting, because if there was anything Sidwell had misjudged, it was her determination to endure. Even the man assigned to guard her underestimated it. That would be his first mistake. As the hours passed, the tension in Port Charles approached a tipping point, and in the shadows, a single decision loomed. Will she be another heartbreaking loss? Or would Sidwell's edict trigger a cascade of events that would destroy him instead? Because removing a threat is not always the most risky approach. It is creating one. And Sidwell had just accomplished exactly